Okay. Thank you for coming back after lunch. We are almost coming to the end of those 2 days of our conference, Power from Statistics, Delivering the Evidence of Tomorrow. This is the moment where we will be having very interesting. I had, of course, a preview of the presentations of Dr. Cuhls that I will introduce in a second. I think there will be a tremendous amount of data, of information, of inputs and stimulus that will benefit all of us. And I think it will be extremely interesting because it will also give an overall understanding of what the foresight is, or what areas of working in foresight can also benefit the communities of the statistical offices, but policymakers and public at large. Dr. Kerstin Cuhls is a scientific project manager at the Fraunhofer Institute since 1992. She studied Japanology. I think it's already a distinctive sign of interest in going beyond the standard areas, to say. And of course, Chinese studies and economics and business administration. She teaches foresight at the Freie Universität, I think, of Berlin, and was member of several high-level expert groups of the European Commission. I would like you to welcome warmly Dr. Cuhls for her keynote speech.
Thank you very much for this nice introduction. Welcome to the future. The future is not what we think it might be. It is always different. And this is something I would like to show you. I would like to give you some food for thought, and I hope the presentation will start now. Yeah. To demonstrate that we can do more than only statistics. We can deliver more than just having a short glance into one curve. We can think also the unthinkable a little bit more. We can combine it. We have a lot of narratives, and I will show you some future developments, only some that are related to what we were discussing during the last 2 days, or I hope they were related. But of course, everything is uncertain, but you will also benefit from foresight in times of uncertainty and more complexity. And this is foresight. Foresight gives us the opportunity to open up some doors at first, have a look at it, have a short glimpse, and close the door if we don't like it, maybe, and do something different. It gives us also the possibility to choose the door we want. So foresight is not really about prediction. Our definition of foresight is it's the structured debate about complex futures. And you've heard that I'm talking about futures, plural. There's not the one future. The future will always unfold in a completely different way than we expected. But at least we can prepare for some of the futures, for some of the events to take place, for some of the data information you found. We can make use of that. And we need a structured debate with all the actors in the field, the stakeholders, with those who really have a stake in it. It will be complex. And foresight tries once the long-term view. This is quite complicated. Of course, also the midterm view. We do not plan. We prepare for planning sometimes, but we do not plan. And I cannot predict what will happen January 31st, 2050. No way. And we have different futures. You think we only have one, but we have futures that are possible. We have futures that are more probable than others, and it's difficult to differentiate between them. And we have those futures that we want. And we can even decide for one vision, have a shared vision, join together in organizations to head for one of these visions. But we have to agree on it, and we have to stand behind it. Otherwise, it doesn't work. We have a lot of different questions towards the futures. how does the desirable future really look like? And we have a lot of different methodologies or methods, meanwhile, developed that help us to explore a little bit more about futures. And some have to do with data and with statistics too. Especially the environmental scanning, the horizon scanning, they use a lot of information that are provided elsewhere, where you see that something is already upcoming. But we use classic statistics in our Delphi surveys. And that's a survey like any other survey too. But we are talking about expectations. We are judging on statements often, things to come. But the main tool is still working out scenarios. Of course, you can do quantitative scenarios, but we prefer different pictures, narratives, broader contexts, and not only one single line. And that's a difference. The difference also to working with statistics until now. Maybe that can change. In statistics, you often have a data set, a row, a series of data. You have your curve, and then it's very appealing just to prolong the curve into the future, to extrapolate. We often try to do that. That's sometimes very helpful in order to see, oh, where are the limits? But we often forget that every curve somehow can break. And often we see patterns. We see different lines that are all heading towards one direction. We see contradictory lines, contradictory curves, contradictory data that are just across that. Oh, they all have a nice pattern. They all go into one direction. And then we are often glad, yes, that must be something that lies in the future, that seems to be relatively realistic. And we think the future might unfold like this. And suddenly all curves break. And you notice that you did not have the holistic picture, because the holistic picture was just my dress. And you thought it might have been statistics. That's a problem that we always have. We think we see something, and we think we see the future, we see the whole system, we see the picture. We do not do that. We have to be very humble. Yeah, there are lines inside, but they are not from statistics. This is like the famous elephant in the room, maybe you know that. And we try to think long-term. When thinking long-term, we also try to integrate different perspectives. Because you've also noticed on the panels, but we see it in real time too, there are many, many different opinions on things to come. And you learn much more about the actions of today and what we have today than of tomorrow sometimes. And we have our perception filters. You all have your perception filters. And I have my perception filters too. We cannot see everything. We do not have the 360-degree view. We do not have it. We have our mentalities behind, our cultures behind. We are trained in our hierarchies, in our routines. We do what we always did. We do not want to see some things. We have a desirability bias. We ignore them. They don't touch me. They are too far away. And we overpredict what we want or where we are expert in. And we underpredict or underestimate sometimes the dynamics of change. So it's quite difficult to have something in. We cannot eliminate these filters, and you also have them in statistics, I'm sure. But we have to deal with them. We can work with them. We can open them up. We can be aware of them when we are doing our foresight and when we are doing our statistics. And now I would like to open some of these doors. I was a bit arbitrary, so it's my choice. And I choose from 2 German studies and a European one. The 2 German studies are the so-called BMBF foresight processes. One was cycle 1. This was performed for our Ministry for Education and Research already some years ago, but it's still quite actual. And the second cycle was the follow-up. I will present it a little bit more. And we are just working on a project that is called Bohemia, Beyond the Horizon, in the preparation of the RTDI Framework Program number 9, here for the European Commission. And there are also some findings that I can show. So the first one was our BMBF foresight, where we started from the new technology fields that were discussed already in the high-tech strategy of our government. They were the classical technology fields, so nano, bio, services, complex sciences, materials, manufacturing, and whatever you like, 14 fields. But the more interesting were those that were cross-cutting and that came out. And some of them were quite astonishing. For example, the time research is on the agenda. We also had two energy fields. This sustainable energy solutions contains, for example, energy harvesting and a kind of energy concert to have supply up to the consumers, the storage, the whole infrastructure inside as a concert and not as a cacophony. But the most important one regarded by our government was human technology cooperation. They regarded it as so important that they even funded a small division that was called Demographic Change and Human Technology Cooperation. And I would like to draw your attention a little bit to that. Because why did we choose it? Even the name was different at the beginning. It was Human Technology Boundary Shifts. Because the boundaries between humans and technologies are shifting meanwhile. We have more and more dense technology surroundings. We have a digital aura, partly. We have technologies in ourselves. We have even implants. We are getting more and more to be cyborgs, even without knowing it. Here an artificial hip, here something else. We have all our glasses, we have all our human enhancement devices around us. And this leads us to a discussion of co-work, collaboration of completely different disciplines that never worked together before, especially in artificial intelligence, but also in many other disciplines. We have to talk about how to behave via a machine. We have to talk about human technology teams, how to cooperate, how to really work together. And we are starting to redefine human beings. What is a human being if the machines are coming closer and are resembling us more and more? In Japan, there are some researchers really constructing robots that are clones of themselves. They look like them. Here in Europe, we see in every survey we do that people really want to see the difference between the machine and the human being. So they want to see if it's a machine or not. But in the long run, you never know. We already have, and these are old pictures, a lot of seamless interactions. Even in the Bohemia, we discussed steering our devices via brainwaves. It's not that far away. It's not that far-fetched. People often think it's science fiction. But we already have these devices here, and they work. We have exoskeletons. They are not in the mass production now, but they are coming because they are needed. Therefore, in the second cycle of the BMBF foresight, we started from the societal side. So we asked more the question, what does the society really need and what are the trends there? And we identified 60 trends and matched them with technologies to come. And one of the first outcomes was what was already discussed here, measuring a lot around ourselves and of ourselves. You all have your trackers, sleep trackers, fitness trackers, and whatever. So quantifying self is getting a normality. But it's, on the one hand, very nice, for example, to track if you are fatigued at the workplace or if you need help or whatever. But it also starts a competition on fitness, on health, on other things, on human enhancement, on being quicker, on being faster, on being better. We had the big data revolution. What is my personal role in that? We have to think about that. And we had a discussion about post-privacy and transparency of our data and who owns the data. Who owns which data, where and when? And it is still unclear. You see 3 scenarios here, how this will unfold. Do we have a post-privacy with very limited control? Do we have a complete transparency, or do we have strict privacy protection in that? We will have more and more data-intensive governance, but more and more the statistics can be automatized. Some of you might be jobless in the future because a lot that can be standardized can also be automatized. You do something different then, maybe. And even the decision-making or decision-making support at first, but then the real decision-making by machines is discussed. And we will see a lot more collaboration, a lot more experimentation in real time, in real surroundings, with citizen science inside. Citizens delivering you the data. There are already a lot of projects going on. They are delivering the data, but more and more they are able to use the same tools as you, as a scientist. So they will be the real scientists. Science is also on the move. There's a new way for sciences. There might also be a new way for official statistics then. And maybe the official statistics are just very few of very many statistics. Whom to trust? How to say that you are better than the others? How to provide your quality? That was already discussed a lot, but it's crucial. And a lot more about technology. I will just rush through it because we do not have that much time, but there's a lot going on, or was already a lot going on in biotechnology. We are talking about molecular biotechnology, synthetic organisms, new production platforms, new production via bioorganisms. And we're heading, maybe, this is supported already by some governments, towards a new bioeconomy. So bio nearly everywhere. We discussed already here the services. And the services are closely linked to production, but they make much more money worldwide, meanwhile, than the pure production. So a lot of companies earn more with their services than with their production they had before. And more business models come up. These business models are not controllable globally anymore. We have heard that they are shifted all around the world very quickly. We have a lot of these new hybrid business models, new modeling systems, and so on, and a lot of service engineering. Health and nutrition come closer together. So there is a lot to measure. Meanwhile, there's a lot of molecular analytics. There are new diagnostics. The personalized medicine might come. It will take a long time. We just noticed it in the new Delphi survey where you can read it, that it may take longer than 2040. But one step after the other, precision medicine, personalized medicine, and also predictive medicine will come. What does that mean? Do you have to behave in a certain way to get an insurance at all? Are you criticized by your insurance or taken out of your insurance if you don't behave in that way? If you don't have a healthy way of life, the quantified self-measuring will tell them what you are doing. And what is the toilets here? They are at first, of course, conceptualized for patients, but they will also spread, like all the other devices also spread. So we will see them somehow. They take longer than expected because the biosensors are unstable. But they will solve that problem. Energy technology is not that much the problem anymore in supply. In energy, we have a problem of distribution, transport, storage. We have new grids, but they have to be built. That takes time. In fact, they cost, of course, but they are not the major problem. So energy efficiency together with new energy provision and a really energy concert might help a lot. A lot is discussed in connection with the e-mobility, with the cars. Use the cars as the batteries, or better, the batteries in the cars also for storage. Yes and no. That will take time. And until now, the batteries are still too bad. They are not a solution for the long distances. Even the ones from the US are not much better. The tests show that also this will take a lot of time. The same for autonomous driving and our new modal mobilities. We will have a lot of new modes of being mobile, but we also will have a lot of new logistics. Internet of Things is discussed, and all these things are combined much more. What was expected long time ago, that we will not travel that much anymore because we have all the virtual facilities and the teleconferences and whatever, that never happened. We compensate for that. So rebound effects are there a lot. We have to look for them too. They also have to be measured. And a lot is discussed under the heading of civil security. But this is often an emotional problem. How to feel secure? What is really security? We had a project where we wanted to measure that. It's impossible. It's the emotions of people. It's not the comparison of real data. Some of the threats are not really threats in regard to the numbers. There are very few people suffering from something, but it's very obvious in the media. But our normal flus, our normal accidents with cars, they are not regarded as such a threat. And often we seek a technical solution because that seems to be simple. They are emotionally helping us a little bit, but for social and civil security, we need completely different solutions. We need societal solutions. So they can be combined with the technical solutions. We can have the artificial intelligence and the robots to safeguard us, but we also have to take into account the behavior of human beings, because human beings in an emergency react in completely different ways than expected. And we also have a lot of limits to foresight. So who did the foresight? Whose foresight is it? Who is the sponsor? Who participates in it? Often we have too many objectives, and many people think we can predict. We have sometimes even hidden agendas to restructure an organization with foresight. That has to be much more open. We need resources for foresight. Of course, that's the major limitation. Who pays for it? Nobody wants to pay for something like that. That is so vague, that are only pictures of the future or narratives or something, even if it's helpful for strategies. And it's often expected that we identify the unexpected, the unusual, the black swan. We find the white spots on the landscape. We cannot. And if we have identified some of them, then the sponsors do not want them anymore, because they are often not politically correct. We do not have the right wording for it. They are not implementable in the existing organization. No, somewhere else, but not here. We don't believe in that. It's something you also hear. And they are so far away. That's the next generation. I don't have to talk about that. They do not touch me. Policymakers have a lot of reasons to ignore the future, and there you come into the play. Wherever we have information, data, numbers, statistics that underpin what is already going on, that helps us a lot. You would also profit from our additional thoughts, because that underlines where to search and what to do. Foresight was originally conceptualized to step a little bit back out of the normal business. Think ahead, be creative, imagine, dream, prepare for futures, and develop a more positive view, even from the problems we have. We can turn them around and try to solve the problem, at least try it. Then, if we consider the chances, we have a chance. And this is the offer to do more foresight combined with statistics. From statistics, we might also learn some early warnings and turn them around. We can integrate more long-term thinking also into statistics. Prolong the curves and look at where is the limit, where is the border, where does the curve break, and why, and where do all the curves meet somehow. it can also bring, foresight can bring to you a little bit more creativity. We have a lot of creativity methods, from mental time traveling to the different heads and perspectives, to see if you have what you need and if we get from you what we need. And of course, you will detect a lot of more alternatives. Our chancellor is always saying there is no alternative, so we are completely different from that. With a long-term view, with the long-term goals, you can really change something. You can make it happen within your limits. It takes time. You have to be patient. Yeah, and sorry, foresight needs to be active. It's nothing for couch potatoes. You cannot just sit there and wait for things to come. You need some activity. And my personal warning, because I always get into that trap too, never trust statistics that you did not fake yourself. So be aware of all your filters that you have and don't believe in what you did. This is working material. All your statistics and all our foresight, all our pictures, they are working material. Don't believe in your foresight. Update it from time to time. This is crucial. And then we might have a bright future and create it actively. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think that it has been very much inspiring. I was looking at the faces of the participants here. I think that you managed to charm them all with your very interesting inputs. Hashtag power from statistics. If who is following us from the web would like to say something and share that with us. We have 5-10 minutes before I pass the floor to my colleague Aminda for the following panel. I think that there might be someone brave to have also some questions for Dr. Cuhls that might agree. Yes, please, the gentleman here just in front.
Just quickly, thanks a lot for this very inspiring set of thoughts. One connection that I made during your presentation is with something that I learned in school, studying economics, the Lucas critique to models. And in a nutshell, this is that whenever you define a model about the future, then individuals start behaving according to the prediction of the model, and then the model is not valid anymore. Now, the solution to that is that you need to endogenize everything. So how does it work in this context? How do you endogenize? How do you take into account that the reality changes as we try to change the reality?
We encounter it with updating, but we are also encountering it with really working with self-fulfilling prophecies. So we discussed already yesterday a little bit about self-fulfilling things, but also self-destroying things. Identify what we really want and identify what we do not want and try to avoid what is there. It might be dangerous, risky, or just not wanted by people. And to do this actively, much more actively than you just let it go, like a business as usual scenario, which is the least feasible one, it is completely different to opt for something that is really desired then. That is the positive thing, that is the positive future, but updated.
Thanks. Anyone else? Please. Give me the microphone for the gentleman over there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very inspiring. I would like to link your speech to the discussion we have had yesterday afternoon, Sustainable Development Goals. And the contrast couldn't be sharper because on your side you have presented us a very dynamic learning way of looking to the future. Update your, that's what you said at the end. On the Sustainable Development Goals, my impression is that we have now decided on a list of indicators which is supposed to be measured for the next 13 years. So no update, no dynamism, just a static list of indicators. How could we come together?
Very good remark, and we come together. This is exactly what we're doing now in one of the projects that we have in the Bohemia, where we measure everything against the Sustainable Development Goals and the criteria that we have there. The SDGs are more a set of criteria and data and goals that we already have for a long time, that we did not address enough. That is more the problem. And foresight is often there to show you that even the old things, the unsolved problems, are still on the agenda. So we keep them in touch and match them. We even matched our Delphi survey statements and the mini scenarios that we derive from them with the SDGs. So with the development goals, and look at how can we find something that helps to achieve these goals.
May I follow up?
Very, very fast, please.
I'm interested in the
Microphone.
of the indicators, not the goals.
So the question was about, I'm just repeating.
The question was about the indicators of the goals, because the indicator list is static for the moment, but I would like to see some kind of feedback as for, where we would have a kind of learning mechanism for the indicators.
Yeah, I think that is maybe really crucial, and it's maybe also a problem, but that the indicators as such as they are planned now for the next years, that they are static. Nevertheless, you will have definitely you will have additional indicators, maybe not on the whole international level, but there will be definitely additional indicators for looking at, and descriptions also, for looking at how the SDGs are achieved. I'm sure that there will be updates, and hopefully there will be updates. On the other hand, these problems are so high level, so aggregated, so crucial for human beings, for mankind even, that these indicators are already existing. They were not existing as indicators, but they were behind the scenes already for a long time and discussed for a long time. So that I think they can be stable for a longer time, because we need some measurements and in order to see the improvements. Nevertheless, a kind of update after 10, 15 years is crucial, and an evaluation is also crucial.
Thank you. Pernille, you will want to say
I
something.
wonder, did you actually define what is a human being? I would like to hear your definition of that. And then I want to hear what is, from a European welfare nation's point of view, what is the most promising trend and what is the most scary trend
followed up
to you?
It cannot be proven until now. And yeah, we do not know how it will unfold, and if it can be regulated at all, how it can be regulated, and how we can follow it up. But of course, that's very long term.
Maybe we should ask Isaac Asimov if he could, to tell us a little bit more about that. I don't know if there is anyone else that might want to have maybe just two final questions before we close this part on the keynote speech or Dr. Cuhls. My feeling was that, we are approaching something, if you allow me a personal reflection, in a set of movies that started to present a future that, of course, it was sci-fi. As of 1983, you might want to remember War Games with Matthew Broderick, for instance, that started to have, he was a hacker, and that entered into the NORAD computer, and then the computer started to understand and to try, it was about war, the Soviets versus the Americans, and the computer started to understand, and it seemed that, the real war was going to happen because the computer took over and started, to take decisions for humans. And as the doctor was rightfully saying before, the reaction of the humans might be different to those of the machines if they are not taught sufficiently well enough, or we don't know how this can happen. And then, of course, we had also some, I think, parallel with the cyborg. So how not to think about Terminator and Skynet also here controlling certain things. So the popular culture of sci-fi nowadays is getting reality. Now, something concrete. If I'm correct, in 2018, we will be having the first fully automated ship container from Norway, going around the world. The impact and the implication is that it might be saving up to 40,000 journeys of carbon emissions. So all those dynamics that are affecting constructively, positively, negatively, we will see that it depends on many factors, our life are already here. So maybe it is really like the time to start to see how the different tools, how foresight, how official statistics, how new methodologies, or we could maybe consider how to combine and how to synergize everyone with, you know, its own specific mandate and maybe capacities. But I think that your presentation was very much inspiring to open and give us this view. Would you like to close with a final message on, to the people here and to the crowd and to the statistical community maybe?
Yeah, my message would be to go beyond what you're doing during your daily business, but really read also science fiction. Read also the stories about the future. There are 7 stories about the future available in the internet. Read all these pictures, and then you can make up your own narrative, your own picture. And there's also a lot in the science fiction that we did not want and that we avoided. So be aware of both sides. And yes, science fiction and the movies inspired a lot of people, inspired a lot of engineers to make happen what was there. I'm still waiting for beaming.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Cuhls.